here, so we read the poem again. The road was lit. What? Out of thy coffee. Get out of my coffee. You're supposed to be analyzing this poem.
Yeah, look there.
Where's his glasses? Could you pay attention? I am trying to. All right, well, pay attention. The road was lit with moon and star. The trees were bright and still. Descried I by the gaining light, a traveler on a hill, two magic perpendiculars ascending through terrene. Unknown his shimmering ultimate, but he endorsed the sheen. We're continuing with our analysis. We have the top analyst with us, Northam Fry. My name's Northam Fry, and my friend is Harold Bloom.
And the lady here is.
What?
And the lady here is.
The Ladybug. Oh, Ladybug.
Should introduce Ladybug.
She's not Ladybug. Her name's Helen Vendler.
Oh, wow.
My name's Helen. Okay. All right. Where are you going?
I'm going to take some coffee.
So the poem goes, road was lit with moon and star. The trees were bright and still, descried by the gaining light. A traveler on a hill, two magic perpendiculars ascending through terrene, unknown his shimmering ultimate, but he endorsed the sheen. What we were talking about. How could she retain the idealism of the pilgrimage plot, the journey up the gladsome hill of Zion, and the glowing gems of the heavenly city, while not submitting them to any of the constraints of doctrine question? She invents.
But she goes alone. You see the traveler alone.
She invents her own double pilgrim, herself and the traveler. She, with some difficulty,
She's the traveler.
descried preceding her on the way. The archetypal road of pilgrimage lies before her, and her quest is so much in earnest that she, like her companion ahead, continues her journey even by night. The poet begins with an artless simplicity. The road and the trees are bright in the moonlight and starlight. By the, quote, gaining, unquote, light of the rising moon, she sees, quote, a traveler on the hill, unquote. In diction, imagery, and syntax, this ballad quatrain would fit into Wordsworth's lyric ballads, in which Wordsworth often places persons on the public road, characterizes them in similarly, quote, artless, unquote, ways. But in her second quatrain, Dickinson introduces an entirely different level of perception as she describes that other traveler who, although as, quote, terrene, or earthly as herself, is ascending the taxing hill that symbolizes spiritual progress. He ascends not to a biblical heaven, but to a miraculous phase, quote, magic perpendiculars, unquote. Don't drink all my coffee.
You should drink that.
Give me some coffee. And don't eat all of the truffles either.
Chocolate.
Don't eat all the truffles. And don't drink all the coffee. Just because you're a scholar doesn't give you the privilege.
I'm not a scholar.
He's our top scholar. How would we know? How would we understand Dickinson without me? Dickinson's love for geometric figures serves her well. The perpendiculars, idealistic projections of man's own columnar self, are therefore magic spectral, just as in the old definition. A sacrament is the outward sign of an inward grace. So the imagined magic perpendiculars are the spiritual sign to the onlooker bound on the same journey of the traveler's, quote, inward grace, unquote, uprightness.
Ascendance.
I pause here for a moment to bring up another poem, but But another poem, but a far darker one, about following one's ideals. Coleridge's, quote, constancy to an ideal objective. Coleridge, like Dickinson, presents two travelers, the poet himself and an enamored rustic who pursues thinking it real and an illusionary phantom, which in fact, says the poem with somber irony, is merely a projection of his own shadow in the, quote, snow mist. Addressing the ideal object, Coleridge cries in disillusion, "And art thou nothing?" question, since thou art as when the woodman winding westward up the glen at wintry dawn, where over the sheep's tracks maze the viewless snow mist weaves a glistening haze, sees full before him, gliding without tread, an image with a glory round its head. The enamored rustic worships its fair hues, nor knows he makes the shadow he pursues. To Dickinson, by contrast, the pursuit of an ideal is not a narcissistic illusion, but rather an ascent to our own potential height, projected from our best concept of ourselves. To express this complex idea, she employs after her ingenious first two lines a more complicated syntax mirroring the life spent striving towards a mental ideal. Rephrased, her sentence would read, I descried by the gaining light a traveler on a hill ascending through terrene to magic perpendiculars. Although his shimmering ultimate remained unknown, he endorsed the sheen. The spiritual pilgrimage is an unending one. In our last sight of the traveler, he is still, quote, ascending, in no visible, quote, ultimate, unquote. To embrace the spiritual journey is to ascend and keep on ascending, to be seen by others as ascending, with no certain end in sight. The ultimate has to be congruent with the, quote, magic particulars. How is the poet to describe the goal at which the climbing traveler aims? As Dickinson seeks the right objective for the ultimate, she tries giddy, but that implies a purely physical, alpine lightheartedness. Then better, she arrives at, quote, dazzling, unquote, a word that, unlike, quote, giddy, unquote, has a history of devotional usage, as in Henry Vaughan's, quote, The Night. There is in God, some say, a deep but dazzling darkness. But dazzling implies a visible source. I was dazzled by the sun, and that is precisely what in the spiritual sense one does not have. The goal remains unknown. So, Dickinson devises an ultimate in the shimmering aura of a celestial aurora. By employing the present participle, the poet keeps the traveler's ultimate active rather than inert. The elusiveness of shimmering suits an invisible ultimate far better than dazzling. To simmer, from the Anglo-Saxon as far back as 1100, means to shine with a tremendous flickering light. The shimmering ultimate may exist in the spiritual hope of the traveler. Of what use is that to the follower who speaks the poem? The sheen or shining of that shimmering ultimate is endorsed by her, by that traveler ahead of her on the road. He is ardently ascending the hill. His ardent ardor attests to his vision. Dickinson's employment of a hard-headed, pragmatic, even commercial word, endorse, suggests that we all need a predecessor who by his behavior vouches for the worth of an arduous spiritual pilgrimage. That predecessor's heart and mind prompting his ascent testify to his inner vision of magic perpendiculars. He is one of those, quote, saints, in Puritan usage, a title for the elect, whose inner quality is recognizable to all, as Dickinson says in, quote, no matter where the saints abide. No matter where the saints abide, they make their circuit fair. Behold, how great a firmament accompanies a star.
It's a nice one. Read it again.
I'll read that one again for you. No matter where the saints abide,
Nice.
they make their circuit fair.
Come on. Read it nice.
No matter where the saints abide, they make their circuit fair. Behold, how great a firmament accompanies a star. Poem from Emily Dickinson. In this brief epigram on the saints, Dickinson recalls another biblical text on righteousness, from which she drew her firmament and her star. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. In such poems as, quote, the road was lit, and no matter where the saints abides, Dickinson's natural supernaturalism, a term applied to such works by Mayor Abrams, does not repudiate the ideals of the Bible. It recasts them anew in earthly terms such as indoors, or in the astronomical language of Daniel. The secularized saints, rather like planets, make their circuit in the realm of the ideal, each a star, each accompanied by the vastness of an attendant firmament, illuminated by the star's radiating influence. Very good.
For me, she is the same.
Mm-hmm.
She is the same. Like
Okay.
Bach is the same.
Very nice reading.
Yeah.
Do you want me to read the poem again? Or are you done?
If you read it as many times as you like, I enjoy it. I love the poem.
Well,
Both poems. What are you doing there?
I think we're
Can
done with that
anybody
reading. Don't eat up all my truffles.
Yeah, you see what happened?
Huh? Don't drink all my coffee.
Hmm.